it's Alice, and today we're gonna do a book haul. And because it is September, it's gonna be a fall book haul, which I don't really have a reason to call it that, except that I want to. It's not quite autumn here yet, I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like the minute September hits, you're allowed to get into the spirit of it, so that's what I've done. I have also, in the past couple of weeks, done quite a lot of book shopping. I've just accumulated a lot of books. Don't know how this keeps happening, but here we are. We've got many books to get through, so we're just gonna get started, and we're gonna start with the fiction, first of which I got Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell, and some of you might be thinking, Alice, haven't you read that already? Do you not already have a copy? Yes, you would be right, but I just love this book so much that I wanted a hardcover edition, and I found this beautiful one, so I just got it. I actually lent the paperback to a friend of mine many months ago already. I gave it to her because I wanted her to read it, and I told her she can just keep it because now I have this. I just think it's so pretty, and this is definitely a book that I'm going to want to reread, so I'm very excited about that. If you don't know, this is a historical fiction novel, and we follow a family in England in 5080, like it starts somewhere around there, and it's amazing, and the writing is impeccable. Moving on to books I haven't read yet though. I went to this bookshop a couple of weeks ago and there was a sale on, and so I took the opportunity to pick up Book of Night by Holly Black. And Holly Black is actually an author I've read a couple of books from, but I sort of left them behind when I realized I didn't really enjoy reading YA anymore, and I haven't read any of her work since, but this is her first adult novel, which is very exciting. This is urban fantasy, which I've realized is the kind of fantasy that I prefer, at least for now, and there seems to be some sort of like underworld where people can do shadow work. I don't really know what that means, but it sounds intriguing, and we follow this low-level con artist who is trying to leave this world behind, and then someone from her past appears, and I'm assuming her whole past just catches up with her, and that's all I really know. I'm really up for trying to read more urban fantasy, so I'm excited to try this out. And I did read somewhere something about a secret society in here, and you know how I feel about those. I love them. In the same book sale, I also picked up The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, and this is a book I've wanted to read for a while. The story is about this woman who makes a deal with the devil, I think, about living forever, but then in that deal she somehow gets cursed to be forgotten by everyone she ever meets. It says that this spans centuries and takes us all over the world, and I think what happens is that 300 years after she makes this deal and everyone she's ever met has forgotten about her, she meets this guy in a bookshop that can actually remember her. That sounds very intriguing. I'm sensing that there's going to be some romance in this, but I'm willing to put up with it if there's a lot of other stuff going on. And although this is a very chunky book, the text is not actually like super small and it doesn't fill the whole page. So even though it's almost 500 pages, I think this is going to be a relatively quick read. Then I finally got myself a copy of The Bombay Prince by Sujata Massey, and this actually came out last year, but I've been waiting for the paperback to be released so that it matches my other editions, and it finally did. This is the third book in one of my favorite cozy mystery series where we follow India's only female lawyer in the 1920s, and I think in this one she tries to bring justice to the family of a murdered student in the middle of the riots to protest British rule. I think this is going to be great. I loved both of the other books that I've read in the series so far, and I hope that Massey keeps writing these because I just can't get enough of the story, and I can't wait to revisit these characters once again. I also picked up more historical fiction with The Mad Women's Ball by Victoria Moss, and this caught my eye in a bookshop recently, in part because of the beautiful cover and in part because the back says something about an asylum. It's set in Paris in 1885, which is like right in the middle of my favorite time period for books to be set in, and it seems to be in part about this doctor who like holds the city in thrall with the way that he can hypnotize the women that are in his asylum. I think part of the story is about him and part of the story is about these women who are deemed mad and unfit to be a part of society. And I'm assuming a lot of these women are not actually mad because this is also the time when people believed that the uterus wandered around the body looking for God knows what. I'm pretty sure there's also something about a ball in here where these mad women are paraded around for everyone to see, which sounds both horrifying and fascinating. A mad woman's ball does, in a way, sound like a good time. Then we have got a contemporary book. We have Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Gyasi, and I got this mostly because I read Homegoing several years ago now, and I really want to read more of this author's work, and I've been telling myself that for years, and then I just never got around to it, but this book and buying it brings me one step closer. This revolves around this family from Ghana who is living in Alabama, and it seems like we follow the daughter of the family, I think, who is studying neuroscience, and she's spending a lot of her time researching addiction and depression because that has been a huge part of her family and has affected several of her family members, and she's sort of trying to find a scientific reason for why it's happening, I think. And then it seems like she finds religion in some sort of way. And I'm hoping that this is going to be about a family because I always think those stories are interesting, but I also hope that it's going to be about like science and religion coming together in a way and trying to find answers somewhere and sort of the search for that, because I think that could be really interesting. Next, we have got another cozy mystery with The Unexpected Mrs. Polyfax by Dorothy Gilman, and I'm pretty sure someone recommended this to me in a YouTube comment. I don't quite remember, but I think that's where I got it from, and it sounds delightful. It's about this woman, Mrs. Polyfax, who is a widow and her children are grown, and she's tired of going to like garden club meetings and stuff like that, and she wants to do something else, so she becomes a CIA agent, obviously. I do think this is historical fiction. I don't know what time period this is set in, but I'm just assuming based on what this woman on the cover is wearing, and I think I read something about the Cold War, so I don't know when this is set, but either way, Mrs. Polyfax sounds like quite the lady, so I'm excited to meet her. Then I went on a bit of a dark academia splurge. I have this huge list of dark academia books that I want to read, plus ones that I've already read and that I've liked, and I just got 3 books from that list all in one go because I'm an adult and I can do what I want. The first one is this lovely edition of Vita Nostra by Marina and Sergei Dyachenko, and this is translated as well, which makes me even more excited to read it. It's like a dark urban fantasy about this teenage girl who meets this man who's really mysterious, and she just cannot resist him for whatever reason, and she ends up going with him to this remote village where there's some sort of institute. She begins to get some sort of education there, but the lessons are really weird, and it seems like the books are almost impossible to read, and the lessons are so obscure that no one really understands them. So it sounds like quite an interesting place, and it says that this is a complex blend of adventure, magic, science, and philosophy, and all of that sounds amazing. Secondly, I got Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, and this is more YA-ish. It's contemporary mystery fiction, and it seems to be about this famous private school in Vermont, which was founded by this guy who loved riddles, but then shortly after the school opened, his wife and daughter disappeared, and all that was left behind was this riddle that no one has ever been able to solve. We meet this true crime enthusiast who starts the school, and she's not just going to school there, she also wants to solve the case that no one has ever been able to figure out, and that's all I really know. It sounds kind of fun to me, and I also think this is the first book in a series, so if I like it, I can keep going. Last for the fiction, we have The Likeness by Tana French, and this is technically the second book in a series, but I've heard you can read these out of order, and I have actually read the first one, but it's so long ago that I've forgotten almost all of it, but I feel like I could just dive into this and I'll manage. In here, I think we follow some of the same people that we followed in the first book. I think one of the detectives appeared in the first one. And in this one, she investigates the murder of this student who actually looks exactly like her, and she's using this fake name that this detective used when she was undercover years ago. I think this takes place mostly at a school, and the murdered girl was a student, which I think is where the dark academia stuff comes in. And I'm really excited to read this. From what I remember of the first book, I really, really liked it. And since then, so many people have told me that I need to read this one, so I'm going to. Then we have got a very small poetry section for this haul. It's actually just one poetry collection that I got. It's Bargain Bin Rom-Com by Lena Norms, who you may have heard of because she is also a YouTuber or booktuber or a little bit of both, and I've been watching her for years and I love her. And I've actually read some of her other poetry. She came out with this zine a couple of years ago that I loved, and I've reread several times since I got it. So this is her first full collection, which is very exciting. I don't know what this is about, but it doesn't really matter because it's gonna be great because Lena is great. And I also really love the color of this cover. It's really, really nice. Moving on, we have got the nonfiction section of this haul, and the first book I have is about, you guessed it, death. Yay! It's Written in Bone by Sue Black, and I got this almost entirely because I read another book by Sue Black recently and I loved it, and so I saw this and I just had to get it. Sue Black is a forensic anthropologist, which is a very interesting field, at least I think so. And this book is all about what we leave behind when we die and what that can tell us about the person who has died. I think we go through some of the cases that Black has worked on in her career, which is kind of what we got in the first book as well. And if it's anything like the first book, this is going to be excellent. Then I was actually sent a book by the publisher, which is very exciting. It's Sorry for Your Loss by Kate Marshall with Linda Watson Brown. And what it says, like the full title says, What Working with the Dead Taught Me About Life. And you know I want to read that. The author of this worked in a mortuary in a hospital in England, and this takes a look at her first year on the job and what she learned and the people she met. I don't know if met is the right term, if it's like dead people, but you know what I mean. Whatever you call it, I want to read about it. The last death book I got is one I am very, very excited about. I found this guy on TikTok who works in a funeral home, and his whole TikTok is all about death, dying, dead people, and like funeral stuff in Norway. And he has written a book, and I just had to get it because I've read a lot of books about death and dying and funerals and different cultural differences and like forensic science and all kinds of things. But all of them have been about other countries. I've never read anything about how we do it here in Norway. And so I think this is going to be fascinating. It's called 160 under by Tor Håkon Gabriel Håvardsen. And I already have a question because this translates to 1 meter 60 centimeters under, like 160 under. And I've heard the term 6 feet under, which is not 1.6 meters, it's like 1.8 meters. So do we have shallower graves here? I'm so curious. Anyways, this answers all kinds of questions that maybe the more morbidly inclined among us would have about these kinds of things. And I can't wait to learn more about how we do these kinds of things in Norway and our customs around this. I'm sure there's a lot that I don't know. And this guy's TikTok is really just excellent. He's very, very respectful and kind. And I think those are the kinds of people who should work in these kinds of fields. It does say on the back here that this is not a book for the faint of heart, but I wouldn't really describe myself that way ever, I think, so I think we're good. Second to last, we have something completely different. It is Secondhand Time by Svetlana Alexievich, and this is all about the disintegration of the Soviet Union, and I'm pretty sure this has quite a lot of like first-hand accounts from that time, which is very exciting. The Soviet Union is a topic that I have a lot of interest in, mostly because I feel like I don't know enough about it and I want to learn more. And I think maybe I got this book, like someone on my Patreon mentioned that they read this book and really liked it, so I think that's where I got it from, and I think it's gonna be very, very interesting. At the very end here, we have a memoir, and it's actually another book in Norwegian. It's Å sette sammen bitene by Martin Eia Revheim. And this, again, I actually found on TikTok, and the video was only the very, very first part of this, like the dedication, which was pretty rough, and it hit me right in the face. It says, til alle barn av foreldre som ikke burde ha hatt barn, which translates to all children of parents who shouldn't have had children. The book is about the author's upbringing, which was filled with extreme neglect and violence that no one picked up on and no one ever really saw. And it also, and this is the part that got me, seems to be about how to reconcile the fact that your parents might be, or one of your parents, might be a bad parent, but they're not all the way bad. And I think that's a very interesting thing. This is something that people do all the time. Like, we like separating everything into boxes and everything into black and white. And it makes it easier to sort the world, but that's not really what people are like. It's about that, and also about growing up and not being loved enough. I think this is going to be a very hard read for me, but also a good one. And it's gotten really good reviews here, so one day when I feel like it, I'm gonna put on my big girl pants and dive in. Okay, everyone, those were all the books I had to show you today. It was quite the stack, but there's nothing like a solid stack of books to make you happy, so it's all good. And I'd love to know if any of you have read any of these books and what you thought, or if you want to read any of them. That's gonna be it for me today. Thank you very much for hanging out with me, and I will see you soon. Bye!